Hi, Scott Lackman from 4510 TV. Part of our local online community resource, I wanted to, over the next few days, focus on some money matters, and whether it be superannuation or banking or finance. Today we're going to interview Roland Knight from Infocus Money Management. Good morning, Roland.
Good morning, Scott.
Also coming up in the program, we're going to have an interview with a company called Crediflex, which is a father and son team, Warren and Brenton Pavey. But for today, we're going to talk about everything superannuation and get the update from this man. He's certainly in the know, over 30 plus years experience in the superannuation field. Roland, for our viewers today, let's start with superannuation. As basic as that word sounds, has there been any updates or developments happening around the superannuation world in the last 12 months?
Look, there has been many changes, not so much around the how superannuation works, because at the end of the day it's just a savings environment, but there's now been a lot of extra obligations placed on financial advisors.
Roland, let's start with superannuation, that single word. For the viewers out there, what is superannuation?
Scott, that is a very good question, only because a lot of people just see it going out of their pays and not really, and they get the yearly statement and they look at it and put it aside very quickly. It's really important that people understand that it is just simply a savings program. A savings program that says, hey look, here's some money being put aside, ready for when you literally stop work. And unfortunately, people don't take the time out of their busy lives to go and ask someone those simple questions. You know, what is it that I'm doing, and it's one of the things I must do. Yeah.
So we understand superannuation. It is an entitlement that your employer contributes towards. It's now 9.25% of the gross wage you earn.
Correct.
So yes, getting independent advice or professional advice from someone like yourself, just to understand around superannuation that your employer is making those contributions, that you can check on your statement. Has there been changes in the last 12 months, Roland, with superannuation, apart from that slight increase of what the employer contributes?
Yeah, look, there's no real changes around superannuation in that area. Obviously the amount of money that you can contribute to superannuation has changed slightly over the last couple of years. We used to be able to put in up to $1 million, and now it's only restricted down to $25,000. However, maybe the majority of your viewers may not be able to afford $25,000, but just being able to add something extra to superannuation is really important, whether it be $20 a week or whatever. But there has been changes in the legislation around the obligations that, as a financial advisor, we need to provide. There was a lot of the changes are around making sure that people understand that they don't have to pay commissions any longer. Now, people who have private superannuation plans out there through a financial advisor, make sure you check your superannuation statement. It's really important that you call your advisor and say, how are my fees going? Now, fees aren't the only issue to talk about. It is more around also where your monies are being invested. Mm-hmm. So that's very important as well.
Roland touched on it briefly. Self-contributions, as far as I was aware a few years ago, if I put in $1 to my superannuation, the government would match that. That's no longer the case?
Yeah, no. The government co-contribution is almost back to zero now. What is more important though, and look, the government can only encourage you and I to save by having these tax incentives. Superannuation is a tax incentive in itself. Hence the reason why, if you can contribute extra via salary sacrificing, that's really important. Talk to your employer about that. Make sure that you put in $20 a week. Mm-hmm. It's really important.
So by your employer taking a salary sacrifice off the top, that's actually coming off your total gross wage, so therefore you're paying less tax, and that's the implication.
Yeah, absolutely.
Roland, obviously our advice today is to deal with someone professional. Yourself, give us a background of Infocus Money Management. Who are you and your background?
Yes, Infocus offices around Australia. We are a franchise system, and so each office is independently owned by the individual owner. But the Infocus head office structure is now the fourth largest independently owned financial advisor group in Australia. So when you do talk to a financial advisor, ask him who ultimately owns the dealer group that person is part of, and that dealer group word is a franchise structure.
And being part of a national organisation, your information is readily available. I would imagine if there were changes in legislation or some changes upcoming with superannuation, you'd be the first to know about it.
Oh yes, absolutely. Infocus are in touch with government bodies and research houses all of the time. So yeah.
Roland, your experience in the superannuation field, I know it's back to where you used to write on bits of paper. What am I saying? It's 30 odd years. It's back when you used to use the abacus. So tell us about your experience in superannuation.
Maybe not that far back, Scott, but yeah. Look, I've been advising clients regarding the superannuation since 1981. And it's the same old story. There's been lots of changes since then, but again, it's all around the bottom line is saving more into super. And look, we only talk super only because that it is a tax-friendly environment.
And a specialised field. I know as a financial planner, your qualifications. Mainly dealing in superannuation, but I know you have some other maybe branches to your business. But today, for the sake of superannuation, tell the viewers, we hear the word self-managed super fund. Who can have a self-managed super fund, and how do you go about it?
You're right, Scott. There is a lot of talk around self-managed super fund these days. It's important to understand, though, that the investment managers who manage your current superannuation fund are looking at and analysing all the different companies that they invest in. Mm-hmm. So as a self-managed, you are more than likely needing to do that. Mm-hmm. The other part of that equation is the cost. It's been a rule of thumb, and it is a general rule of thumb, to have approximately $200,000 sitting in both your and or your wife's spouse's super fund, so you can combine them to come to that $200,000 only due to the fact that the cost of running a self-managed super fund is a flat dollar. But it's important though to have the time to manage it as well.
Yeah. And when you talk about managing it, the accounting process side of that fund?
No. There's you can draw on lots of expertise. An accountant is very important in the process. He can do all the transactions in that regard, but at the end of the day, you take full responsibility now, and that's a big word. The ATO puts out a very informative book on self-managed super funds. Have a read of that. It's free. Grab it. The ATO website is got lots of information about it.
So maybe let's go a different angle with that question. With a self-managed super fund, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, they have the nominated, say, $400,000 sitting in an account. Where you're saying is they need to invest that money wisely so that it does hopefully grow and mature. Yep. Now that can be in property or shares or...
You can invest in anything in a self-managed super fund. With a couple of qualifications, is that you can't buy your own holiday home in it. Okay. You can't buy a painting and put it on your wall at home. Right. And you can't buy a classic car. Okay. All right.
So we're talking about substantial investment of property.
Yeah, the sole purpose test in all superannuation is that that asset must grow and eventually give you an income in your retirement. There is talk of some people buying wine within the self-managed super fund. That's not a problem It's just that
Wine matures?
wine matures and hopefully goes up in price. I'm
Yeah.
sure it does at times, particularly if you buy a Grange.
Yeah.
But you've got to be able to eventually take that asset out as a pension.
Yep.
And that's the hard part.
Okay. Self contributions, Roland. We'll just to elaborate a bit further. We talked about the employer asking your employer to salary sacrifice, so it takes a bit off the top, etc. Reduces your gross taxable income. What about little Jimmy Smith? He's a spray painter at the local spray booth, and he's listening to this video today, and he says, "Well, yeah, maybe I should start putting in $20 a week." What would you say to little Jimmy Smith?
Look, there is a bit of a myth out there that only large corporations can do this thing called salary sacrificing. It is simply going to your employer and saying, "Please take some money out of my pay before I pay tax, before you take tax off." I've actually had a couple of clients come back to me and say, "Oh, no, my employer can't do it." I say to them, go back to your employer and say, "Do you use MyOb?"
Yes.
Yes, it can be done.
Yeah. Well,
It is as simple as that.
Yeah, and I think it's more just that obligation of the employer to sort of orchestrate one of your requests. Like it's your money, and you're just asking for it to be
Absolutely.
delivered elsewhere. Yeah.
Well, in fact, even the 9.25% is your money as well.
Yeah.
So it's really important that you take control and say, "This is what I want to do with my savings."
Yeah.
And not enough people are actually doing that. So get out there and do it.
We could talk to Roland all day with the years of experience in money management as such. Roland, what other services, apart from superannuation and giving guidance or advice on that, what other services do you offer through Infocus?
Very broad. Financial advisors, generally speaking, do specialise in a couple of areas, but I just feel that being able to touch on all different areas for clients is really important. I can talk to them. I'm accredited to talk to you about your mortgage, how best to structure that, particularly if we're going to go down the borrow money to invest area, e.g. negative gearing property or whatever. Being able to structure that mortgage properly is really important. But also to estate planning is something that none of us really talk about. Estate planning is very, very important because not enough people have wills and powers of attorney in place. Even if you put a nomination on your superannuation account, that nomination may not be correct. Even though it might be your parents if you're under a certain age, or you might have all your kids on it. That is something that a lot of people I've seen in the past as well, and it really just does not do the right thing for themselves.
Yeah, and as you say, it's probably that conversation we avoid with families, that we don't like to think the worst, but if there is some sort of plan in place, at least you know your wishes are being granted in your passing, and maybe through that estate planning there's other avenues to encourage the balance of the family to tidy up their affairs as such.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm assuming that your local networking through business, you're in touch with bankers and solicitors that could draft that paperwork via your office.
Yep, absolutely. I have a network of solicitors and accountants that I refer clients to, but it more around I can instruct the solicitors on how we want that document looking like.
Yep.
I'm not a solicitor, I'm not an accountant, but I can actually help that process along quite well.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Let's get away from money for a moment. You're a married man, a beautiful wife, Anne Louise, kids, grandkids.
Grandkids, yeah, two.
Living in Caboolture, working in Caboolture. Give us a bit of a personal background to Roland Knight.
Oh dear, you've pretty well said it all there, Scott. But yes, look, we've just recently had our 31st wedding anniversary. Two beautiful grandkids, three adult children. We've been living in the Moreton Shire for all of our married life,
Yes.
and we just find that Caboolture has everything for us. It is the area. It's got family areas that we go to all the time. Even when I was growing up, our parents used to come to Bribey, for a full day out type session. It was the area is really great. People are friendly, and there's lots of great things happening in Caboolture.
Your business opportunities, let's look forward over the next 5-year plan for Roland Knight. Obviously growth in your business, but you plan on staying in business locally?
Absolutely. Look, I've got another 15 years to go in business before I retire, but absolutely expanding the services, hence the reason why Warren Pavey and Brenton and I are looking to combine our forces in the mortgage broking area. He's the expert in that area. We've already been referring clients to each other for a while about that.
Okay.
And so it's really important to grow the business that way.
We'll catch up with Warren and Brenton in another interview, but today, thanks Roland Knight, Infocus Money Management, local man and trusted friend that if you gave me some advice over superannuation, I'd take it on board. Thanks, and we wish you well in the future with your business.
Appreciate that, Scott. Thank you.